Scottish accent, so if your camera doesn't pick up every single word, I apologise in advance. As you can see, there's not much in the way of presentation facilities. Not much in the way of presentation facilities, and I have 20 copies of our presentation. I don't plan to go through every single slide simply because it's only 10 minutes to speak and then it's over to questions and answers. I'm sure you probably want to go pretty straight into questions and answers. This is part of our community outreach, I suppose you might call it. INEOS is committed to talking to communities in the areas that it's potentially working in. We launched a couple of weeks ago an initiative inviting parish and town councillors to set-piece meetings from our senior management. They were well attended, very high quality of questions and answers, quite high quality questions, and quite high quality answers from our team. The town and parish councillors were actually very engaged, and they weren't just there to tick a box. We weren't there just to tick a box. They were asking the questions that I imagine a lot of people in the street would be asking. They didn't hold back with the questions. And at some point we'll get all those questions and the answers given up on our website in our substream. So that's my introduction. I am, as was introduced, the Community Relations Manager, and I have here John Hunter, our drilling manager. He's drilled many wells and even fracked a few, quite a lot of them over in Canada and the States. And when I end up in a rabbit hole and anything technical, John will come to my rescue, hopefully. So if I can ask you to sort of take one last thing around, that'd be good. There's only 20, I think there might be more than 20 people here. Lost my own copy. Right, very first thing, safety. INEOS is extremely safety conscious. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. The company operates 65 petrochemical plants around the world. We have to be safety conscious. And this, what's the second slide here, it's just our safety performance graph. And you'll see from once it comes around that we are just short of best in class in terms of injuries per 200,000 hours worked. We record slips, trips and bumps. We've managed to record all them, and it's still a real sense of safety. We can prevent incidents happening. Just turning over the page, INEOS, who are we? We are a very large petrochemical company. The shale side of the business is a very small part of the company. Hopefully it will become significant over time, we shall see. And across the world, the sales of $40 billion last year. 17,000 employees across the world, more than 6,000 in the UK, and 65 manufacturing sites across the world. This is a great company. Our heritage is essentially the old refining assets of ICI, BP, the big companies like that. We took on the assets, we did one, and we developed them and made them fit for purpose. Our name isn't on the product label. We make vital chemicals that go into our everyday use. Every single one of you will have something either about your person or in your life, many things in your life, that will have its genesis in INEOS. We produce the plastics that make things. All manufacturers, we supply the downstream manufacturing industry with their raw materials. Whether that's simple plastics or very, very high-grade plastics, we provide that. There's a picture here about people healthy, housed, mobile, closed and in touch. And that includes the renewable industry. The renewable industry could not work without the fossil fuel industry. Wind turbines do not turn without lubricants provided by petrochemicals. The blades, special coatings provided by gas. Solar panels are ineffective without gas. The plastic products we provide, these high quality products, help renewables. They're a very high big customer of ours. I always feel that we should actually have in that little set of pictures, we keep people happy, but possibly not the audience. So comes to energy consumption, next page, we need gas both for energy for our plants and also as a raw material to make the plastics from. That's what it's for. So it's ethane to burn and methane, sorry, it's the other way around, methane to burn and ethane to use as a raw material to create the plastics. Moving on to shale, that's introduction to INEOS. Not many people know about INEOS, so that's a little introduction. Moving on to shale. INEOS invested heavily in understanding shale before they actually said, right, let's go forward in the UK. They did their homework, and they did it to a very high degree. Jim Ratcliffe, who's the chairman, does not invest his money without doing his homework. So a couple of questions have to be answered. Are there viable shale reserves in the UK? The answer is probably yes, but we have to do test drilling and try fracking and flow testing to find that out. It all may be a red herring in the end, but we need to do the science to understand what's there first. Another question we asked was, what experience do we need to bring in to help us understand this? And INEOS is a petrochemical company, so we brought in UK onshore specialists, we brought in the specialists from the States who actually essentially designed and refined the horizontal drilling and fracking process. You guys from Mitchell Energy. They've been there at the start, they've seen things develop, and that's their way of, we use their insight. What can we learn from the US experience? Well, the US ploughed ahead, there's no doubt about that, and although there's been 1 million wells drilled, and a great many of them have been fracked, there have been, relative to that, a small number of incidents, too many. I think everyone would agree with that. But we analyse them. So what is the root cause of those issues? It's either through operator sloppiness, going into old wells and fracking them, and poor regulation. And we don't have that here. We know this industry is going to be very heavily watched by not only the regulators, but by the public, and rightly so. So people get much more comfortable with it. But they decided we learn the lessons from America. We do not apply those. We apply the lessons learned here in making sure that we get things right. The other thing is, can we extract gas safely and protect the environment? We know Britain's in a different place. It's not a other country. And the answer is yes, but we have to do it right. With the engineering competence, but excellent operational. Excellent. We don't just rely on the regulators. We rely on our own people getting it right. And we 65 petrochemical plants. We know about engineering. INEOS will put itself out to make this work well. People often say, oh, you're just in it for the money. Well, we wouldn't be in it unless there was a potential to make money. But shale gas in the UK is a national asset, just like the oil and gas from the North Sea was. It is a resource that's for the nation. So who's going to benefit? Well, the downstream manufacturing industry. If we have no gas coming in the UK that can be transferred into plastics for that manufacturing industry, it dies. It absolutely dies. The Treasury will get tax from it, quite a lot of tax. Communities will have not only business rates, they'll have the community benefit. We can come on to talking about that if we need to. There'll be jobs, and the other thing is there'll be security of supply. The UK is already importing a lot of its gas. INEOS is actually importing through a virtual pipeline ethane from the shale gas fields of the United States to use in its Grangemouth and Roughness, Norway refineries. They're actually been bringing a mothballed cracker back into production after 8 years of idleness because this shale gas, the ethane, can be used, and that's a big boost. We can protect existing jobs, obviously, and we can also create new jobs and develop skills that are exportable. So the UK benefits. People in the UK benefit from this industry. It's not just about one company making money. Well, what's our approach? Is to demonstrate technical rigour, absolutely, and have transparent open communications. I've rattled through to what might be of interest to people in Kings Clipstone. I should say, Kings Clipstone, and even where we sit today, is not one of our licence areas, but you are surrounded by our licence areas, so it would be interesting
Data, where's
Egdon.
Egdon?
It's EGDON. They've got a number of licenses across the UK, some production, I think, and the websites, I think, Egdon resources. Easily found. We've got regulations in the UK. We've got Department of Energy Climate Change. We've got Environment Agency. We've got Health and Safety Executive. We've also got local planning approval. Nothing moves unless we approve. And we've got independent well verifiers. So there's a lot of regulation that we have to dovetail into. Anything we do has to be approved, and that's fine by us. So this map here, this is the spread of licenses across the UK. We have obviously a lot of acreage, and it's really a testament to INEOS's ambitions in this. But we do have to find out if it's viable. Looking to these Midlands, next slide, a bit closer in. You can see East Midlands, we're up to Sheffield in the top left, and we're down Edwinstowe, or just outside Edwinstowe, bottom right. So that's the licenses. Obviously there's protected areas, there's urbanisation. These areas will not be drilled in. So when you look at the surface assessment map, what we're trying to show here is areas that we want to be going into with the drill bit. We won't see a drill coming up in Edwinstowe High Street that is a drill. We're looking for open countryside. And I imagine that, roughly speaking, if you eyeball most of our licenses, you're probably talking 40 to 50% of the licenses are not areas that we'll be going into because of these so-called surface constraints. That's before you even look at the geology. The geology might tell us the best stuff is underneath Sheffield. It might tell us it's actually underneath a designated area, but we can't drill in those areas. So the geology is where we want to focus our actual underground efforts, but the surface might actually make that impossible. So we do that surface assessment, and then there's a whole lot of other assessments we go through in defining what would make a good site for drilling. So there's a lot of work done at the desktop, understanding what's going on. Just quickly moving on to license areas near Kings Clipstone. That's this next page here. There's a few holes in this license map. I think that's for other companies where there's actually production going on right now. You may or may not know about it, but there are oil fields around this area, and they're in production very quietly. They've been there for 20, 30 years, and quietly working away. You can see this the odd shape where Kings Clipstone is down here, Edwinstowe is just up there, and that's a gap in that license area. Not ours, but beyond, as I said, surrounded. And looking at the surface assessment here to Kings Clipstone gives you a bit of a closer look. You see there's quite a lot of grey, which is urbanisation, quite a lot of dark green, which is designated areas. So that's a special scientific interest in section we're going into with the drill bit.
Can you say anything to
Sorry?
the drill bit won't go into that green, dark green area?
Not on the top. Before we run out of time, let's talk about INEOS's likely activities in the next year or so. So 4 years in fact. As I said at the start, it's a piece of learning, understanding what the geology is telling us, what is possible, what is not possible. So it's a lot of information, data gathering, and effort into that. So we're currently reviewing existing seismic data and other well data that we might have available. Data about mines, mine workings. Over in Cheshire, we're looking at the salt mines, what's happened there, etc. We expect to undertake seismic data acquisition later on this year and into 2017. And what seismic is there for is to give us a better understanding and picture of rock beneath our feet, thousands of meters below our feet. It's 2D seismic and 3D seismic, and that's basically big vibro-sized machines will work their way through an area. They'll be there for a day or two in each particular area and then move on. So that's the prime piece of data we need so we can understand where we really want to drill, where are the best spots to drill, geologically speaking, never mind up on the top. We'll process that. We will probably make a couple of planning applications, a number of planning applications towards the end of the year for coring wells to take a sample of the rock for laboratory analysis, and that's to understand the properties of the rock. In other words, how strong it is, whether it's got gas in it, etc., whether it's possible it might be worth exploring further. That's going to be, I think it's about potentially in total 19 coring wells across our 3 big areas. So they're here and there, they're not sort of obligate concentrated here, across the areas. So dotted around is probably the easiest way. Once we've got that information, we tie it into our other data, we can then think about what areas are worthwhile drilling horizontally and fracturing to test the flow of gas. So as probably delivering the point, it's a case of building up our knowledge base, understanding what's there. And all that time, and we'll probably skip back to the end, all that time we will be talking to the community which we're working, wanting to work, keeping them informed, understanding their concerns, hopefully answering their concerns, and moving on from that. Skipping on to this one here, this picture here. This is actually a 4-well gas production site, Cheshire, near Fiddler's Ferry power station. That's what it looks like from the ground. You can see the train, but you can't actually see the site. That would be a typical screening that would be done in the UK. So if you ever actually get into a production phase and we have one of these multi-well sites, it will be screened, placed within the landscape so it's not obtrusive. It's not very high, and it would just not be, it wouldn't even be necessarily visible unless you know it's there. Over time, we will make sure that these things fit into the landscape rather than sit out like a sore thumb. Concerns have been raised with us, and this little sheet here is a bit hard to read, my eyesight anyway. It's a one-liner about how we address the concerns that we commonly hear. Happy to deal with these in questions. I mentioned our communicate to the communities. It's genuine. We're already out there talking to communities. We accept an invitation here. I know that we've got another one, actually this very hall again, in a few weeks' time for Edwinstowe Parish Council. We've been to a number of other parish councils. I've got a stack following our recent discussions with the parish councils. We've got a stack of invites to go to other parish councils to talk to them, with public meetings. And we've also had various contacts from some of the frack-free groups who are interested in having a conversation to understand our point of view. Not everyone is viscerally opposed to us, but some of them want to actually understand what we have to say. As a briefing forum, we're happy to accept invitations to frack-free type events. We've done them before in Scotland. As long as they're well managed, they're actually useful both for us to hear what people have to say and also for some of the audience as well. So on that note, I will say thank you. There's quite a lot of information on our INEOS Upstream website. Lots of the films, literature. There's some literature here. And you can take away with it. We don't have enough copies for everybody. At least enough copies of the East Midlands Geology brochure if that your interest. We're on Twitter, INEOS Upstream, INEOS_Upstream. Follow us, send messages, see if you get a reply. And also send emails to shield.information@ineos.com. It's usually me who replies. Peter Rennie's my name. It would be hard to figure out how to get to me directly if you so desire. It's not hard, and I'm usually pretty good at getting back to people. So on that note, I'll say thank you for listening so well, and if there's questions, let's go for it.
Okay, at this point I need to leave, so Paul is going to sit in the chair and please give my thank you very much for coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul Bromley. I'm the Vice Chair of Kings Clipstone Parish Council. What I would like to remind you of is that this is a Kings Clipstone Parish Council and it's relative only to Kings Clipstone.
Sorry.
It's only relative to Kings Clipstone residents. Now, if you're a resident in Kings Clipstone, then we're happy to take the questions first. So anybody that's a Kings Clipstone resident, then we'll take those questions first. Anybody that isn't, in this time left, then we will allow them to ask questions to Peter. But you've got your chance in a couple of weeks' time when Edwinstowe have their own fracking meeting. So, is there anybody from Kings Clipstone that would like to open up the questions to Peter or John? Oh, John, please.
Yeah, I'll jump in, Paul.
This is Alan Stanley, he's a resident.
This is a mining area and has been for about 150 years. The coal board can't tell you where all the tunnels go, etc. What's the technical difficulties of drilling into that sort of setup? And what's the safeguards?
We'll tell you what we have in the way of data we can use. We do have all the coal board maps, and bigger collieries have very clear maps of where they've gone. We do know that some of the other collieries, the smaller mines, may have gone on further, a different direction than the originally planned or allowed to. That's just the way of things back in the day. So we have the maps to work out where the main seams are and all the rest of it. If we hit a seam, or John hits a seam, we need to think about it. You stop and you have to think about it, and John will tell you what we do with it.
We will also be shooting side, so we'll be able to be using the maps as they are, 3D seismic, so between them we'll be able to navigate. And if we know that there's a coal seam there or whatever, we don't want to drill anywhere near that, we don't want to invite a problem. However, if we do drill into one, there'll be a lot of cement getting. We will have to fix that problem before we can carry on drilling. Now it might mean you've got a string of casing, and then you get cement returns to surface. Once it's all stable and you can go on to the next whole section, but you will have to deal with it when you come to it.
Yeah, I'm not anti-fracking, by the way.
Oh no,
There is a potential point. You see, actually, there's one point trying to fill up cement. Right hand.
I mean you could drill ahead. Yes. Yeah, I mean if it comes to that and you can't drill any further, absolutely you can skid the rig. I mean the difference in, I've drilled 2 wells 10 feet apart and it's been like drilling on the moon, it's been night and day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would have that option.
Must make a good survey of how much coal is down.
Yes. Yes.
Julia's Stan.
Yeah, my main concern, being I'm not anti-fracking either in principle, but my main concern would be, not be very technical, I'm not into the technical bit at all, is the infrastructure. Now all that's affected and all the, I mean we already have problems around here with roads
And lorries.
and the lorries are destroying the road surfaces while you look at them. And I can't understand how you can have all this going on and not have an increase in heavy industrial vehicles.
Well, in fact, there would be a lot. If you're drilling a coal well, it's a very short-term operation. If you're doing a development, you're there for a while, and there would be a lot of lorries, there's no doubt. So part of our assessment about on the surface is, well, is there viable access? And you have to take into consideration the roads and the network and a whole host of other things. Yeah, it would absolutely be part of the. It's not a case of let's just go along the road and we don't care. Can it actually take the weight and the numbers, etc. So yeah, it's very much.
Maybe we'll get a bypass.
We can be right.
Would you like to contribute to the cost of the better infrastructure of our national bills? Would that be possible?
Well, we did talk about the community benefit. One of the offer that INEOS has made is 6% of its revenues from the wells. That's revenues, not profits. Off the top goes to community in terms of 4% goes to the landowners, the householders under the trajectory of the well, and 2% goes into the local community. That's the basic offer, the principle of it. The actual technical detail of how it will be allocated, we're inviting the views of the communities into that. But we don't want it to just go straight to the local authority. We want to get it into the communities that are actually close to their operations. And that's something we'll be working on. Of course, the actual production phase is some years away yet. So, fly past next year.
Yes.
Joy's a parish councillor.
It does say on your list here of concerns raised and how industry addresses them. Wastewater disposal. Where does the water actually come from in the first place?
Commercial suppliers. We put a lot of water down the well to try and talk about that.
So is that what do you supply?
Okay. So we need water to frack the well.
Yeah, water and sand.
And that water will come from water,
sand and chemicals, I understand.
Yeah, that's fracking fluid. So that gets pumped into the well. And water for that will come from a commercial supply. The water industry in the UK is pretty well set up, and they will more than likely be our main source of supply for water. Whether we go to the local main and draw it off under agreement, or we draw it from some other source, we can do that. It depends on where you are and the logistics of it. All of it has to be done under license. You can't just go along and start taking water from anywhere. There's water available to do that work. Where do you then take it? Well, you'll take it for disposal. And it depends on what you actually bring up with you in terms of when the water comes back up from the frack job, as to what kind of treatment it will require. If it's bringing up various other elements from the ground, they may require specialist treatment. We don't know until we've actually find out.
What treatments? What chemicals?
Sorry. This is Joy was speaking. If you do want to speak, then I'd like to put your hand up. But you need to do Kings Clipstone. So if you're not Kings Clipstone, just wait till we finish. Okay. Sorry, Peter. If you want to finish the question, I don't have a problem with that. So we can get that question out of the way. Yeah. So Joy basically was asking about the water.
Yeah. The other part of that, I understand that it's sand, water and chemicals. I understand it's also possibly, is it sulfuric acid is part of that chemicals. What happens if there's a leak? Where does the leak, the water and the chemicals go if there is a leak? That obviously seeps back into the ground, is it?
You mean if there's some sort of spillage on the surface?
Or actually, as you're drilling down.
Okay, well, you wouldn't be pumping that until you pressure tested your casing, so you know that you've got a contained vessel, so you know that you've got good integrity. Then you would go and you would perforate and start injecting the frac fluid. So it's not sulfuric, you might have citric acid. The acid is there primarily.
Citric acid.
So it's primarily there to instigate the frac right at the near wellbore. And then you've got chemicals for erosion inhibitors, you've got guar gum is in there to suspend the sand that's going down, that's a toothpaste, it's an ice cream. We've got bactericide to prevent bacteria being from down the hole back up. So when we pump the job, we know that we're contained, so it ain't leaking on its way down. Then it'll go down the wellbore, it'll flow it back up, it'll be all contained, and if the we've got an environmental guy two that are working on this, because the bulk of this is set up for the offshorings. So there's obviously Aberdeen, it's a big one. There's Great Yarmouth, Scotland, there's a place in Liverpool. Some of these guys onshore are getting geared up to take this water. What you can do, you can thermal desorption, you can heat it up and it will go into the different elements, so the different waste will come out and dispose of that accordingly under our.
I mean, I do have concern because I've actually found on the website that INEOS was actually found guilty of pollution earlier this year. I mean, it's not to do with the fracking, but it's a cause of concern if it's the same company that was actually found guilty of releasing caustic soda into Manchester Ship Canal. It was March this year.
I'll put that in context of 65.
And you were actually found, weren't you?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And it's recent, so that's my concern about
Let me put that
that
into
there could
context
be
for you.
leaks if we're dealing with chemicals and where these chemicals will be going.
Let me put that into the context of INEOS as an organisation. It happened, no doubt about it, it's regrettable, and it's been addressed, and we did have to pay a fine. Fair enough. But in terms of 65 plants around the world, these are isolated incidents. Each one has to be examined as to how it happened, make sure it doesn't happen again, and lessons were learned, and every lesson is learned, even from strips and bumps. One incident should not be translated into anyone that's going to go around stealing.
But that's a recent incident.
It is recent,
We're
yes.
not going back for a few years, are we? It's this year.
Yeah.
And you just assured
Again.
us that everything's safe and you won't do anything to damage.
Any other questions?
Anybody else from Kings Clipstone? Right, we've got about 10 minutes, so if you'd like to put your hand up, I'll take questions from the floor for Peter or John, but we will be drawing to a close at 10 to 8, so you've got 10 minutes. So, sorry, yes. Could you give us your name first, please?
Me?
Yes.
Sorry. Yes, my name is May Boroff. I'm a resident of Edwinstowe.
Okay.
And I've been for about 38 years. As well as Sherwood Forest, with my father being a ranger at Sherwood Forest. I am rather concerned because I've done research since about 2013, and it does look like it doesn't look like a safe endeavour. And I was actually I work in a day centre with people with all kinds of needs, and I was talking to one of my elderly members of the day centre, and she said, well, everybody knows it's not safe. So it's something that a lot of people have been talking about, and I've never spoken to her before. So my concerns that I've picked up are that under Sherwood Forest is a very large aquifer, which is the largest in the UK, and reaches under most of Nottinghamshire. And once that aquifer is tainted, then it's tainted, which is the likes of which this area will have never seen before. I've read that it's linked to cancers and premature births, and I've seen how people have had to move their cattle off the land through seepage. I do have a lot of concerns, but I'd just like to raise the fact that this isn't just any normal area. This is a very special area with great historic heritage. I have a book sort of this big at home that indexes all the historic books written about this area. So I don't want to take up too much space, so if anybody else would like to raise their concerns or questions.
Can we just, the issue about is it safe is a certain start. INEOS has done its homework and satisfied itself. It can be done safely if you do it properly and as well regulated. That is the way we approach it. That's the way we expect to approach it. With regard to the aquifer, John would more than happily tell you how we protect the aquifer when we drill and when we frack.
Okay, so the aquifer will be drawn through that water to exclude no additives. There'll just be bentonite in that, which is naturally occurring anyway. Once we're through the aquifer and a good way through it, we'll then case it off. And once it's cased off and we put cement back to surface, then we'll good to carry on. But we do need to get cement to surface on that casing string to make sure that the aquifer 100% is the last thing we want to do is there. And we won't carry on until we're, like we were saying earlier on, until we're 100% positive that what we've just done is good to go, it's been pressure tested and it's all stable, then we can carry on draw.
If I can, sorry, just one second. Just so I can understand what you said. So basically, you're going to drill down, you'll go through the water table. While you're going through the water table, you'll put a casing in place that stops the water leaking into your casing.
Thanks.
Yeah? And you go straight below it, and then you'll carry on to what depth?
Around here, I think it's anything from 5,000 feet to 9,000 feet.
And I saw 7 to 10 this morning in the news.
Yeah.
Well, just to ask you a question. So if you go through the existing coal mining, you would have to case off. So there'd be no methane or whatever coming through. So just for the public to understand this, they'll drill, and correct me if I'm wrong, they'll then put in a solid case, so there's nothing can actually go into that case that then comes to the surface, and it will continue drilling down until you get to the point of where you want to go horizontal.
I can draw a picture if you want.
Yeah, no, please.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it.
Right, okay. So if my concern is exactly the same regarding the water.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We've got a borehole, we've got a pump station up at Rufford there, Amen Corner. It goes quite deep. There's sand in and around that area, so it holds water quite good. I believe 7 trying to pump out of there. And then we've obviously got all the coal mines locally. My concern is if the coal mines have already been exhausted or not exhausted, but finished for economical values, then you're going to drill through those. What I would like to know is that you can actually make that safe as you go through that coal area.
Yeah, drilling through coal isn't anything new.
Right, I appreciate that. For you it isn't.
Right.
For us, it's important.
Yeah, it makes a fair concern. No, you might have to change your drilling practices when you're drilling through the coal. You might have to cut back your pump rate, increase your mud weight, so on and so forth. But once you get through the problem zone, it's in your interest to case it off. That's what you want to do, so that any potential problems are behind steel, they didn't come through steel. Yeah.
Sorry,
in some human error though, because obviously, let's face it, human beings are kind of making all this stuff. You're smiling, so you understand exactly where I'm coming from. That human error, I mean, all this process is quite likely to happen.
Human error regarding what?
In the sense of the make of it, how it's transported, where it's contained, tiredness, there's all this stuff that is kind of happening. You're saying that you're doing your reports to make sure it's safe, but are you getting independent report, stats to see if it is actually safe? Because we're going with what your company is doing, going, oh, your company's doing okay, and it's all your information, all your studies. But how about independent? Do you get any independent companies that kind of see?
Yes, we do.
Because obviously we're not. I just walked in and it sounds like you're kind of making it very light.
Okay.
Give us some meat here of what chemicals you put in, how many tons of water you're going to use.
Yeah.
Let's hear some real meat that everybody wants to hear.
I don't feel this lady's questions actually answered.
Not at
If
all.
there was a spillage out, there's chemicals that have gone down, where would you put that excess water? It's just going to go into the fields and around.
There's a surface spillage. Is that what we're talking about?
That lady, sorry, I don't know your name. Yeah, actually asked a question, what happens?
I think one thing that we've got to think about on this is it's okay while you gentlemen are working.
If you all talk at once, nobody's going to get an answer.
Well, I've had my hand up for 5 minutes and nothing's happening.
Sorry?
I say I've had my hand up for over 5 minutes and nothing's been.
Well, okay, then you put your question forward.
Well, what I was saying was.
It's a question, I don't want a statement. If you want to ask a question, ask a question.
Yeah. I've been listening quite close to that, and I think the lady's probably right to some extent. I think you're playing sort of a little bit casual to what's the concern of the people here tonight. What concerns me is that everything can be fine while you're fracking in Sherwood Forest or wherever it might be. But as we out of the ground and and selling it,
Yes.
but equally it could contaminate everything that you're doing, and that's what worries me. That like with methane gas, the contamination can be horrendous.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you,
Just your
Chair.
name, please, for the minutes, please. Could you, excuse me,